All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call the Tazewell County Board meeting to order. John, if you could call the roll, please.
Thank you. Atkins?
Here.
Crawford?
Here.
Deppert?
Here.
Mark Goddard?
Here.
Samuel Goddard?
Here.
Graff?
Present.
Hageman? Hageman? Yes. Hall?
Here.
Harris?
Here.
Josting?
Here.
Crable?
Here.
Longfellow?
Here.
Minold?
Here.
Mingus?
Here.
Nelms?
Here.
Pageant? Trail? Rich Stimson? Schneider?
Here.
Sin?
Here.
Smith? Chairman Zimmerman?
Here. We have a quorum. We'll do business if we could rise for the invocation and pledge. I'd like to just take a minute, not a minute, but just have a little moment of silence in light of the heinousness and the butchery that we've seen in the world, and just pray for the peace of Israel. So let's have a moment of silence. Heavenly Father, we come before you humbly as a board here tonight. Pray that you can give us wisdom as we deliberate these issues. We have a full agenda tonight, and we just want to honor our citizens and honor you in everything that we say and do tonight. Thank you for everyone who's come out this evening. And thank you for their interest and their willingness to participate. I look around and see the harvest, Father, and we just see that it's been a bountiful year, and we thank you just again for your faithfulness. As we see the crops come in, I pray for the continued protection of the farmers as they bring the rest of the crops in. Thank you for all of our employees, Father, and just what a wonderful job that they do for us. I lift up our first responders as they put their lives on the line to keep us safe. I lift up the Ukraine and Israel, Father, as they deal with horrors that we've never seen in this country, at least in my lifetime. And I pray that you can bring peace around the world. We know that you're sovereign in all these things, even in the midst of chaos. Things happen for a reason, and we trust you for that. We love you, Lord, and we pray all these things in your name. Amen. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first part is communication from members of the public. I have a number of slips that have been submitted. Our first is Zoe Carter. If you could just come forward and tell us where you live. And again, it's 3 minutes, or 30 minutes total for this issue. So, Zoe Carter.
Hello everyone, my name is Zoe Carter. You might have seen me around town talking to different people in my quest to hopefully become your next state representative. But I'm not here today for that. This town is my town, this county is my county. I'm a 5th generation Pekinite. My family raised crops where power chain is. Time and time again, we have had to deal with corporations taking advantage of us. They have stolen it from us, they've stolen our land, they've stolen our businesses. They've screwed us over, and now we have another corporation wanting to come in and do the same thing. Ruined land, damage to our water supply, and more should make this pipeline a non-starter. On top of the potential of a pipeline leak reversed that could harm and kill countless livestock, crops, pets, and most importantly, our families. But right now we have a foreign company coming into our wonderful city, threatening the lives of our neighbors with no forward plan to continue investment in our home. And all of this is under the guise of union labor. We can support union work, create union jobs, and protect union rights, while still creating a better environment for us all to live in and not worry about some company coming in and killing us. Let's do better. Let's support local industry and jobs. Let's be good stewards to our land and environment, but not at the benefit of a foreign company harming our wonderful home. Let's make sure that we protect the lives and livelihoods of ourselves, our children and grandchildren, and our friends and family. Thank you.
Robin Miller.
Greetings. I brought a few visual aids. I guess you can gather from that I'm not a big fan. The Wolf proposal is disingenuous, hazardous, and unnecessary. It is disingenuous in that the certified letter we received from Wolf said, Wolf has no plans to use the condemnation process and is proud to highlight that the entire right-of-way for the Alberta Carbon Trunk Line was voluntarily negotiated with landowners without using the right of eminent domain or condemnation. Wolf is counting on your ignorance of Canada to pull a fast one on us. You see, there aren't any landowners in Canada, not as we understand it. All lands in Canada are held by the Crown. The Canadian Act has no provision for any Canadian to own physical land in Canada. They don't have eminent domain or condemnation either. The Canadian term for the process is expropriation. So when Wolf declares the entire ACTL right-of-way was negotiated with landowners without using eminent domain, it's true, technically, but we never hear about how many tenants of the Crown were expropriated to build the ACTL. The only negotiation with a landowner Wolf had to perform was with the Crown's representative, the Governor General in Ottawa. I'm going to skip a little bit here. Many people have already stated the plain truth. CO2 pipelines are hazardous, and I will not repeat them. I would like to point out, however, the recent paper in the International Journal of Greenhouse Gas Control, at a link I can give you if you're interested, quote, CO2 pipelines are more likely to experience smaller puncture size failures, that is less than or equal to 50 millimeters, that's a small puncture, thus resulting in smaller magnitude but more prolonged releases. This directly impacts the preventive and emergency response planning that is required, especially in the case of buried CO2 pipelines, where small leaks can remain undetected for long periods, unquote. Has Wolf provided you with this data? What is Wolf's plan for measuring CO2 emissions all along the route of the pipeline? What is Wolf's plan for compensating victims of long-term, low-level, that is less than fatal, CO2 exposure at rates greater than ambient? Is there an escrow account or set-aside created for damages? Finally, the Wolf proposal is unnecessary. The technology exists and has existed before World War II to convert CO2 back into hydrocarbon fuels via the processes of dry reforming and Fischer-Tropsch synthesis. See this? Anybody recognize the symbol, corporate symbol on this? This is AMSOIL, A-M-S-O-I-L. Do you know what it stands for? American Synthetic Oil. This is already a business that's already working, doing Fischer-Tropsch synthesis to create new hydrocarbons from other feedstocks, not crude oil. Every affected ethanol plant has the means, the ability, and the incentive with crude oil prices at almost $100 a barrel and foreign turmoil to increase the price, to get into the domestic synfuels business immediately. The capital wasted on pipelines should be diverted to synfuels production. Stop this madness. Resolve and vote to stop the Wolf pipeline proposal.
Michael Legler. Legler?
Good evening. I don't have a presentation like that prepared. I came here tonight, I've been here at every one of these meetings since this has come out, because this pipeline is going to pass within 700 feet of my house. It is a property that I bought out on Town Line Road a little over 10 years ago. It is the place where my wife and I intend to stay and retire, and where we intend to leave to our children and to our grandchildren. Earlier this year, my second granddaughter was born, Olivia. She was premature, but since that time, she has put on weight. She is gaining and doing just exceptionally. And I'm looking forward to the day that she can play with her older sister out in the 5 acres that we have and enjoy what we've been able to try to build for them. This threatens all that. I do not feel comfortable with my grandchildren playing near such a hazard. And nobody in this county should feel comfortable with such a hazard running next to their schools, through their neighborhoods, across their highways, where literally anyone, whether you live close to it or not, just traveling around the county will become a hazard because you will have to cross that path on a regular basis. I am firmly opposed to this. I will continue coming to these meetings, not to be obstinate, but to ensure that this board understands my opposition to this, and that my interest in this and my commitment to this is not going away in the near future. Thank you.
Chuck Moss, Chuck Mace.
Most of the board members know me from working in the highway department for 37 years. I'm retired. My dad passed away, and I ended up taking over my mom's farm. I'm the head of her estate. Wolf wants to put it within 300 feet of her house. Well, that's not good, because one thing, it flooded. We haven't had a good flood in a long time. Back in the 80s, it come within 300 feet of her house. Besides, they want to put it through a gravel pit like Dad had when he owned land down there. And we dug down 4 foot, we started hitting water. And the water table varies. Are you renting the farmer part of the land out back now? But they do it by a school, and they said, we don't put it in floodplain. If you remember, they said, we don't put it in floodplains. Well, he is, so he lied. So we need to think of our kids, and we need to think that they need to reroute this a different way, away from north and south Midway, Rankin School, Sockpekin. You got fiber optic over on Springfield Road that would knock out from St. Louis to Chicago, because we hit one of the waters when we was mowing green boxes with green grass. Now that's the perfect deal. Real smart. But they got a gas line over there that feeds the dope plant over in Delvin. You got oil line, you got a gas line that runs off the Golden Road, right where they want to dig. You got a lot of stuff. Well, you guys gonna end up inheriting, if they get some of this, a lot of complaints. They might say, you know, we voted you in, we can vote you out. Well, that's some of the stuff you guys are gonna deal with. So we just like to have you say, no, enough's enough, move it somewhere else. Take it over to Biden's place. Take it over to somewhere else. We didn't ask them to come in here. That's it. You're gonna have to deal with it.
Carl Lutz.
well, this is the third time. But tonight I'd like to address the fact that, this pipeline, they're gonna be paying them money, it's gonna be US tax dollars that's gonna go to Canada, all right? So more money going across the border, more of our money. We pay the taxes. And one thing I think the government forgets is that when you have tax money, it belongs to the people, okay? You didn't generate that money, the people generated the money, and the government took it from the people that generated it, all right? My position on tax is not, I don't have a very high opinion of taxes, all right? Now, I know that this county government has like $44 million surplus. Did I hear that right? And you're preparing to spend $27 million on a courthouse? Now, I think you could take some of that surplus money and secure counsel and look for legal recourses. Now, I just saw a news release where they took this to the federal level, and they said, you know, the federal, since there aren't any regulations, the federal government has no power over it. It goes back to the state and the local governments. So why don't you guys take some of the surplus money, which is our money, the taxpayers, and all the people that belong to this organization, we are all landowners. We are paying the tax. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that don't understand that, but we are also voters. Now, why don't we take some of the surplus money and secure counsel and look for legal recourses and see if we can pass zoning laws and safety laws that would make it hard for them to run this pipeline through the county. Sound good to me?
Elton Rokie?
Elton Rokie, spokesman for the citizens to stop the pipeline here in Illinois. Carl, you took kind to these guys. Actually, it's $30 million in reserve and $26.5 million in unused COVID tax or COVID money that they get that burn a hole in their pocket that they want to spend. Good evening. I'm here representing Tazewell County to stop the CO2 pipeline. I've contacted individual members of the board to try to get a sense of how they feel about this pipeline. My takeaway from these conversations is there are still many unanswered questions. So tonight I'm going to give you a little background and a few things that are going on, and I'm also going to update you about the people that we'll have to be dealing with these pipelines. I spent many hours, way too many hours, trying to research this project from many angles. There are some recent updates. We have joined forces with roughly 7 other state and local groups opposed to the pipelines. The Southern Project, not Wolf, but Navigator, Mount Simon Hub, is 1,300 miles through 4 states, including their second pipeline application, which they withdrew last week. And then on Friday, they actually came in and canceled their entire project. Wolf Carbon Solutions is still actively pursuing its application to construct its pipeline from Iowa into Illinois and through Tazewell County, threatening life, health, crop production, property values, and our vital Mohammed Aquifer. On Friday the 20th, the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council came out with their new recommendations, one of which is that CO2 capture and sequestration is not a clean energy source, and this false solution is harmful to all communities and has no place in an environmentally just future. On Monday the 25th, we had other Illinois groups submit 19 letters of written testimony from experts to the ICC in opposition to Wolf Carbon Solutions pipeline. These proposed pipelines are coming, but with one goal, which is to make money for their bottom line and their investors, not for the people. Although Wolf cites pipeline safety, they have partnered with Archer Daniel Midlands, whose deplorable business record over the last 20 published years is almost $1 billion and paid fines and penalties. These include OSHA violations, EPA violations, and price fixing. ExxonMobil, if you think that's just one pipeline, once they get these pipelines in, they set the stage for more. ExxonMobil is looking into piping hydrogen across the country. Okay, this is the nasty stuff. It burns, highly explosive. If you think they're a good company, in the past 20 published years, they've paid $3 billion in fines and penalties, including OSHA, EPA violations, and price fixing. So these are the companies that the pipeline companies are partnering up with and saying they've got a good safety record. There are also new companies looking at pulling water from the Mississippi River and our valued aquifers to be piped to the water-starved western United States. These are some of the challenges we face, and it's time for this board to get proactive and get involved. Don't tell us what you can't do, ask us what you can do to help our cause. Thank you for your time.
Timothy Larkin.
Timothy Larkin. I am against the pipeline. I've got 5 kids. We've only got one aquifer. You know, I asked the board, you know, please take that into consideration. You know, we've got a company that seemed to be very hasty in coming in and trying to push stuff through before actual regulations are passed that are more stringent, make it tighter on them. I just ask you to take that into consideration because we've got future generations out there that are watching and upcoming. I know I've got one daughter that's really watching a lot of things in here, and she takes it pretty seriously on people's rights and just government doing the right thing for the majority of people. So we can take that into consideration with that you do the right thing for your constituents and Tazewell County as a whole. Because we do have a great county here. We've done a lot in the state of Illinois. So you can do anything you can to help get where you need to be, speak with the ICC, just whatever the majority is for on this issue, please do what you can to speak up for us. That's all I have.
Kim Bowers.
Hello, Kim Bowers, 2010 Highwood Avenue. I'm coming here today because I want to say no to being the nation's dumping ground for CO2 waste. And like most of you, I didn't know much about this issue before I heard about it, you know, what was going on. And the research that I do just makes me more and more concerned. And in particular, it's because where we are. We're in this red section here, and it's between the capture, the storage, and the transport. Central Illinois is where they want to dump the toxic waste. They've decided that we are a great area to dump the nation's toxic waste. And make no mistake that the CO2, when it's pressurized like this, it becomes highly toxic to all living things. Here's another map where we're labeled just as the sequestration region. And so if we let this one pipeline come in, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because thanks to President Biden, there are now $100 billion of tax credits for companies to line up to start sequestering carbon. Experts like to use phrases like the danger zone and mass casualty event when talking about the possibility of potential CO2 pipeline and CO2 well accidents. The proposed pipeline would crisscross Illinois, taking waste from over 50 ethanol and fertilizer plants, because the powers that be have decided we're the ideal dumping ground. We're the epicenter, and everybody with whatever power we have, whatever voice we have, needs to try to fight this. There is absolutely no benefit unless one of us is gonna get some carbon capture credits, which I don't know if the ADM guy is here, to any of us in here. I am not willing to accept this risk. I do not consent to the potential for becoming collateral damage for a climate scheme that's nothing more than greenwashing, allowing polluters to continue to pollute while they put our land, our water, and our very lives in jeopardy. The tax credits at hand are our tax dollars. And there is a lot that we don't know about this technology, but pretty much most of the things that I'm seeing, it uses more energy than it's going to save. There is a massive amount of water that they need to do this with, and I don't know about anybody that lives in Tazewell County, our water bill is really astronomical already. So what's gonna happen when they start taking massive amounts of our water? I say no to being the nation's dumping ground for CO2. And I implore you to use any of your resources to protect the residents, the water, the land, and all lives from this scam of carbon capture. It is an unproven short-term solution. The potential risks are great and the benefits to the residents of Tazewell County are virtually non-existent. I did want to thank the Cincinnati Township and Board of Trustees for issuing a moratorium, and I would like to present that to you today. Here you go.
All right, Kathy Gilbert.
Hi, good evening. Thank you to the Tazewell County Board for this opportunity to speak. I'm Kathy Gilbert, and I've been a resident of Tazewell County all of my life. My family owns property in this area for more than 65 years, and many of my neighbors and friends are multi-generational farm and property owners, and I'm talking about 6 and 7 generations owned in the family. And I know personally that some of these legacy properties are impacted specifically by the pipeline, with pipeline going through their property. You know, tonight we've heard a lot of personal and emotional pleas from our residents, and I just want to recap what I know. I started hearing about this pipeline a few months ago, and I've done a little bit of research, certainly not to the extent of some of the people that have spoken. But I just wanted to recap that Wolf Carbon Solutions currently owns and operates the only private carbon capture and sequestration system in North America, and it has a 150-mile pipeline with the capability of transporting up to 14.6 million tons of CO2 per year. And as others have stated, Wolf has partnered with ADM to implement the CCS system. And the map that has been released by Wolf shows that the proposed pipeline will transport CO2 through 10 counties: Rock Island, Henry, Knox, Stark, Peoria, Logan, McLean, DeWitt, Mort, Macon, Piatt, and of course Tazewell County. You know, the citizens here are concerned because there's no updated safety regulations currently in place. And, you know, we're worried about long-term damage to our land and, of course, the aquifer that is underneath all of this proposed route. Again, I wanted to just let you know that recently Navigator, which is a different pipeline, Ventures pulled out of Illinois, but Wolf Carbon is still pushing forward. As a couple people have indicated, there has been expert testimony filed with the ICC, Illinois Commerce Commission, in its response to Wolf to dismiss this pipeline entirely. But the next few months are going to be very critical. The evidentiary hearing is in January of 2024 with the ICC to make a final decision by May of 2024. And I would just ask the board to please consider our community and its integrity and the safety of our citizens and also our future generations. Please do everything you can to help us and help protect us. Thank you again for your time.
And then finally, Dr. Gordon.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak again tonight. My comments are a follow-up from the county meeting on September 27th. Again, my name is Dr. Matt Gordon, proud Tazewell County resident and proud superintendent of Rankin School District 98. I do thank this board for your service, as I'm certainly proud to be a resident of this great county. Last month, I shared a little bit about Rankin, and so while we are small, I mentioned that we are proud and mighty, and we are located right here in Tazewell County. Last month, I also shared with you that the Rankin Board is most definitely opposed and gravely concerned about the proposed carbon dioxide pipeline. The Rankin Board has taken note that the carbon capture technology is relatively new and that it resulted in a rupture fairly recently, February 22nd, 2020, in Satartia, Mississippi, creating a very dangerous situation in which multiple news organizations reported that more than 200 people were evacuated and at least 45 other victims were hospitalized as a result of the poisoning from the rupture. At Rankin, the safety of our students and staff is our top priority. Thus, the Rankin Board has taken a variety of steps to oppose this proposed carbon dioxide pipeline as it relates to passing through Rankin property or being located in close proximity. Respectfully, I am urging all of you, local leaders who can speak for our county and for the students and staff of Rankin, to ultimately lead. The standard of safety as the top priority should be the standard utilized by this board. At your last month's meeting, we were told that the board's perspective is that the authority over this pipeline is, quote, very, very limited, if at all, end quote. Also was said that at the meeting that this was an opportunity for board members to learn and that the board will conduct county business. Respectfully, this pipeline is county business. Respectfully, this board has had time to learn and research this matter and to ultimately take a position. Respectfully, this matter is very important to the students and staff at Rankin and to the residents of this county. Respectfully, I'm urging this board to view leadership through a different lens and not just through the view of authority. While you may not have the authority, you certainly have a voice and influence. You certainly have the opportunity to represent Rankin and Tazewell County and take a stance. Great leadership is not passive, hands-off, indecisive, or simply concluding that nothing can be done because something appears to be very challenging. You have a school of students and staff and a county of residents looking for you to lead by being active, hands-on, decisive, and taking whatever action you can, no matter how inconsequential you might think that action is. I can promise you that any action you take would certainly not be inconsequential to Rankin, and it's certainly not inconsequential to the county residents here tonight. I do appreciate that this county board filed a petition to intervene in this matter. However, while it is noted in your petition that the pipeline will affect the economy, infrastructure, public safety of the citizens in Tazewell County, and property values, your petition does not provide a clear stance, in my opinion. I have read your petition multiple times, and it's not clear if the board views this pipeline effect that is mentioned as positive or negative. It also appears that this board has ultimately chosen not to intervene, as no testimony was submitted on behalf of the board. Further, I have been unable to find an official stance that this board has taken on this matter beyond what was said by Chairman Zimmerman at last month's meeting. If I am wrong, I gladly apologize. I will happily stand corrected. But if I'm right, again, I urge you to lead and to persevere through any and all roadblocks, hurdles, and timelines that exist in terms of representing Rankin and other Tazewell County residents in this matter. Respectfully, we are 100% county business, and our safety should be your top priority. We need your leadership. Thank you.
All right. Any communications from elected or county?
One more thing, Dave, if I may.
What? What do you? Ellen, hey, Ellen, please show a little respect. You had your time. Would you like to hand something out?
Yeah, I've got something for you.
Okay.
Okay, we've got roughly 2,000 petitions opposed to this pipeline,
Okay.
asking for the board to take. And out of courtesy to you, well, I printed 200 of them. We're gonna try to bring the rest on a thumb drive.
Okay.
So I'd like to submit these to you.
Okay.
I know what you're gonna do with them, because I already can tell.
All right. Any communications from elected or appointed county officials? Russ?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I have remained silent publicly on this issue since the beginning. I have not remained silent privately with friends, family, anybody who would listen. This county, I've been around since '76 on the county board. This county has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years protecting, supporting, enabling, removing obstacles from all of our school districts in the county, including Rankin. It would be a tragedy to, now when Rankin needs us the most, turn our back. Secondly, this county has spent tens of thousands or more dollars over the years to protect the Mohammed Aquifer. It's the lifeblood of the health of our county. The water is pristine. It's come through glaciers. Certain counties, I won't name them, have tried to intervene or actually steal our water, and this county has gone to court to stop that, including a former county board chairman that the county backed through resolution. I can't sit here and tell you whether this project would or wouldn't affect that aquifer, but the very fact that it might tells me that this is a big red flag. The last thing I wanted to say is I wanted to go to the executive committee. I think that would be the appropriate committee, and ask for a resolution by this county board opposing this project. However, a few of my friends on this board, their position, that they didn't convince me, but their position was it's not a county matter. It's not something that Tazewell County can approve or disapprove, and so we shouldn't take a stand. Well, I agree that the county doesn't have the authority to approve it or deny it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't stand up for the citizens of Tazewell County and tell the ICC what we think. The last point I want to make, and I only found this information out about 3 minutes ago, is that I have a piece of good news, because what some of those friends on the county board told me is why I shouldn't go to executive and ask for that resolution, is because the ICC, the Interstate Commerce Commission of the state of Illinois, has authority over this, and they're not going to listen to us. I can tell you that I just got 2 documents in my, what's it called? Texting, that I'm old. And it says that 2 of the staff members of the Illinois Interstate Commerce Commission have made recommendations to the ICC to deny this project.
Any other communications from elected or appointed county officials? All right, if not, moving on. Then I get a motion to approve the September 27th meeting minutes. Motion by Schneider, second by Atkins. Any changes, corrections, deletions? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed? Minutes pass. We have 4 in-place meetings tonight. The first one is in-place property. Chairman Longfellow.
Thank you, Chairman. Sandy, can you call the roll, please?
Chairman Longfellow?
Here.
Vice Chair Mingus?
Here.
Atkins?
Here.
Crowder?
Here.
Graff?
Here.
Heckman? Here. Joski? Here. Rich Stinson? Here. Schneider?
Here.
You have 4.
Thank you. I need a motion to bring P 23-13 on floor. Mr. Snyder, Mr. Graff. This motion is for the downtown parking lots. This is the parking lots east of the McKenzie building. And this is the gravel lot, all the parking spaces, the east McKenzie building, the alleyway, and also the parking space next to the Tazewell Bank building. So that's the area we're talking about. This is pulling out all the posts and patching all the holes and getting grades and grinding and replacement all the way to finished product of striping the parking lot. It came in with 2 bid proposals. One is from Tazewell County Asphalt, $234,697. The second proposal is United Contractor Midwest, $249,487. 35 cents, and that's a difference of $14,790. Our property maintenance supervisor is asking us to approve the second proposal from UMC or UCM for $249,487, and it is a slightly little bit higher than the other Tazewell County asphalt proposal. Are there any questions? Okay, Dan?
Is there a scope difference on why we want to take the higher one?
I'll let Mike Shoney kind of talk to that a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe we can answer some of these questions.
That was easy. The reason I wanted to go with UCM as opposed to Tazewell County is there was a lot more put into UCM's bid process. They came out, did drafts on the parking lots. They did elevations, they shot grades, and that was the process. Whereas Tazewell County did none of that. Okay. We also asked that part of the process was to remove the damaged areas, not to just mill over top of it and fill it and then pave over top of it. That is what I was advised by Tazewell County what they're going to do. They're just going to cover it and then cover over top of it. We don't want that. We want it done appropriately. So I think that may be our cost is why they're able to do it a little cheaper. I think we're going to get a better product out of UCM from this.
Any other questions? Ms. Crowder?
Did we look at having our own people, our own labor, our own material, our own equipment do this?
No, we did not. We looked at having them do the engineering study a year ago.
I remember the engineering study, but that was with a different company. I'm talking about, we've got tons of equipment in Tremont. I know we can pave a parking lot. $249,000 is I know it's 3 parking lots and an alley, but, so we didn't even look into it, we didn't even check what we could do it for. In an attempt to save money, taxpayer money.
I think we've talked to Mr. Park before, and just on their bandwidth. Dan, I don't know if you want to address that, but there were some particular reasons, I believe, Mark, why they couldn't, but.
I'm just trying to get it on the record.
No,
We didn't do,
yeah,
we
that's
didn't
great.
do that, we have equipment, we have laborers, and we're not doing it. I cannot understand it, it doesn't make sense. But, I just want that.
Sure. No, that's great.
What is your name, sir?
Let's, Mr. Goddard, Mark Goddard.
Mr. Goddard? We've looked into all that. In 2015, 2016, we redid the parking lot where it would be timed to us. We had the time at the moment to design that only. We did the design for what you see over here at the Pekin Park, or Pekin Time lot. We're down 2 people at the highway department right now. Otherwise, it was actually my decision not to get involved in the design because we have our hands full with actually dealing with our highways. So we chose to outsource all of it. Our equipment, we have tandems.
You need to leave that door open.
We don't have any. We don't have papers, and we don't have really that kind of expertise. And so, one item I wanted to add to Mike Shoney's comments was that drainage is important there. I found the boundary there and was actually involved in actually acquiring that, and then I became county engineer, so my life's been kind of upside down a little bit. And so, the drainage is critical there. Most of it goes into the alley. The last thing you want to do is run water into other people's property, and then you've got a lawsuit and then a real issue. So what Conan has done there is actually determine the way it drains now, and the way it has to drain in order to put landscaping in there to comply with the city of Pekin, because there's landscaping requirements, there's infiltration requirements with the city of Pekin because of their combination sewers. So I like to think that we did properly consider that, and especially as taxpayers. So, thank you.
All right, thanks, Dan. And Mark, you bring up an excellent point. I mean, if we can do things in-house, I think we should explore those, but I think this is just a little bigger than we could handle. I'm sorry, Greg.
Thank you. Yes, we did include City of Pekin's because the alleyway, we are concerned about the vendors on Court Street that have their back doors to the alleyway. A lot of attention was drawn to the alleyway. And so all that's been included in the engineering study, and we feel like Mike Shoney said, that we'd be better off with the UMC proposal. Any other questions? Committee? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I also have a miscellaneous subject that I've been told that we can talk about, just a consensus. We're getting ready to go into some serious bidding work on the Broadway building, and that's been approved budget-wise into the 5-year capital campaign, so I need property committee's consensus that we can go ahead with some bidding processes, even as we get into the holidays, not have a December meeting, that we might get in some binds. And I mean, we're gonna still follow all the procurement rules and regulations, it's just we might have a timing problem, so we wanted to make sure that would be okay with the property committee until we get to January. All those.
Do we have anything written up of the bids that are gonna be?
We're basically getting budget quotes on drywall and all that stuff, but we just feel like, in all fairness, we need to do a lot of those interior projects in the wintertime, and, not focus on all the outside projects so much, but make sure that we're not slowed down by the procedures. And since it'll be approved in the budget, hopefully 5-year capital campaign, it's all included. Mike, would you like to address that at all, Mike King?
Yes, the current practice is that anytime there's a capital project to be bid out, the authority, we take it to the property committee and ask for authority to go out for bid. We've now been including our capital plan within the budget book and presented that to property committee earlier this year. So the request is, since we're trying to move forward a lot of those fairly quickly, if there can be a consensus of, if it's a budgeted capital project that's within the capital plan, that the facilities director can go forward with bidding it out. There wouldn't need to be the request to bid it out beforehand. So that kind of summarizes what the request is.
Is that a popular consensus that we can go forward with that? Nobody opposed? If anybody's opposed, raise your hand on the committee. Seeing none, we'll go ahead with that. Thank you very much. We're in recess.
Thank you, Greg. In place finance meeting, Chairman Graff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sandy, would you call the roll, please?
Chairman Graff.
Here.
Vice Chair Schneider.
Here.
Atkins.
Here.
Shepherd.
Here.
Goddard.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Treble.
Here.
Longfellow.
Here.
Middle.
Here.
Minkus.
Here.
Trail.
Here.
Christensen. Here. You have the floor.
Thank you. Not quite sure how to explain this, where we got to where we're at. Obviously, the budget process started, and there was concerns with the fees being charged by the Recorder of Deeds office specifically, along with the county clerk's office. And the Finance Committee, along with this board, authorized a fee study schedule conducted by Bellwether. That fee study schedule was completed, forwarded to the board in October. The board took up the matter at our October Finance Committee meeting. Strange meeting. The outcome of that meeting was the committee didn't want to take into account the fee study. They wanted to roll the fees back to the last fee study, which was conducted in 2018. A motion was brought forth, but it wasn't clear enough written, so it was tabled until tonight. I think that's where we're at right now. So we have a motion before this, F-2341, that I would like to discuss. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor? Mr. Schneider, Crable. It's also important to understand, while we're addressing this motion tonight, we will not take action as a full county board until the November meeting, because if these rates are approved tonight, they have to be published according to law. So while the Finance Committee will take action on this tonight, and obviously the full board is welcome to weigh in on this, the full board won't be taking action on this until our November meeting. Have I cleared anything up or made it worse? Anyway. Now comes the next part. I'll turn it over to Mr. Delary, but I believe he has a revision that he would like to bring forth to this proposal that's on the floor.
Thank you. Yes, as we talk about the fees, the cost study is also very much interrelated to the budget, so we'll kind of be discussing both of those items. It'll relate to later tonight too. So as we go through the process, it helps to understand where we were first. So if we look back to the prior county clerk's budget and the first year clerk Ackerman's budget, there was only one part-time person that was paid in the fee study. And so there's two buckets basically that the county clerk's budgets get paid out of, the general fund, and then there's two fee funds. And for the recording fee fund, the cost study supports, it was just one part-time person being paid out of that. Since then, now all the recording employees are being paid out of it. And so that's where we are now. There's also the software costs and the contract costs being paid out of it. And at the same time, revenues had gotten moved or started that had been intended for the general fund are now getting deposited in the fee fund. So going forward, the recommendation is to go back to how we were, where operating costs such as labor gets deposited or gets charged in the general fund, and that the fee fund go back to just being used for technology and for the document scanning purposes. That was the recommendation of Bellwether, that we keep those separate. It is, and so that is how these proposals were made. We went to Finance Committee just before the study started, and the Finance Committee agreed to have labor go back to the general fund. So that is where we are now. There were two recommendations, well, it was discussed at the last meeting that we approved the current fees. So there's then the discussion of what are the current fees. There's the fees that the board had approved in 2018, and the board has the authority to determine those distributions. Then there's the fees that the county clerk is currently charging. So the resolution that the motion just had, that would be the 2018 fees. There was some interest in increasing the costs at some point in the future. So rather than defer this discussion to next year, I created a separate option. You should see option B, capped fees, handout out here. I also emailed it out. So it caps the general fund increase to the cost of consumer price index. So with that being in the 23% range, it caps that cost there. For the general fund, the percentage was already below 10%, so it includes the GIS fee increase, since the GIS fee is completely paid for by this revenue source. This is the one revenue source for the GIS fund. Then it keeps the automation and document storage fee what it was as of 2018. So currently the automation doc storage fee does have a significant balance. There are costs that are going to be paid with the scanning contracts. With approving later tonight the budget amendments to move the labor costs from the fee fund to the general fund, and only using the fee fund to pay for those technology and document costs, there are plenty of funds to be able to pay for those set costs. So just propose this as, rather than going a couple more months and talking about this later, it would at least allow us to recoup some of those costs now. And so we previously talked in Finance Committee, the cost gets paid somehow. So the fee study has said what our cost is. If we're not recouping that, then those costs are being covered by other revenue sources, whether it be sales tax or property taxes. Somehow those costs are being recouped. So the decision for the board is, should it be totally on the user, which the board does have in their financial policies, the statement of wanting to have user-based fees, or do we want to subsidize that to some degree? And so this kind of goes in the middle with increasing the general fund fee portion and the GIS fee portion, and keeping the document storage and automation fee where it is, since the labor costs would be moved to the general fund.
Are you totally confused yet? Mr. Harris?
A little bit of clarification.
Use your mic, please.
Mike.
The tentative budget, all the figures we approved were based on the fees Bellwether recommended, correct?
Tentative budget, it had the status quo, so that's what's in the budget book right now.
So it has the 18 or the county clerk's fees, which one?
The revenues are still based on how the county clerk is currently distributing them, not based on the 2018 amounts. The expenses are also based on that, where the salaries are being paid out of the fee fund rather than the general fund.
All right, so you're proposing we go back to 20, not proposing, the options are we're going back to 2018, which would reduce revenues. But would that option, if we go back to 2018, would that also change the distribution, the funds back to the general fund with the labor costs?
It would, and so the total cost would stay the same, adopting the 2018 resolution, and it would change the distribution of the individual fees back to what the board had intended in 2018.
All right, then you said we'd have to rely on other revenue sources. Do we have revenue that could cover that and not hurt another area?
The GIS fund is where this is the primary revenue source for it. It just uses the recording fees as a revenue source. We get some reimbursements for costs that we have from flyovers from other municipalities that work with us. The general fund, it would just be the revenue source of the general fund, generally.
Then option A, the cap fees, is an increase in fees to the PTEL cap, right?
to what inflation has been, the exact actual inflation. PTEL caps at 5% for each year, and I just did what actual CPI was from February 2018 through September 2023.
And then in the last finance committee, we had a third option was the bellwether renovation, right?
Yes, and I can pull up a slide that shows the.
That's right. So our options tonight are 18, the cap fees, or the bellwether study.
Yes. For resolutions, we just prepared resolutions for the 2018 fees and the capped fees, since Finance Committee did not want to go forward with the bellwether study.
And so it's just the fees on this motion, nothing about transferring labor or anything else.
This resolution, yeah, would purely be the recording fees.
Thank you.
Mr. Atkins. I think that, well, I'm going to say something that probably you'll all be like, man, attorneys are really annoying the way they talk, but this goes too far and doesn't go far enough. If this measure is a final measure, it doesn't go far enough because we need to increase those fees. And this doesn't seem to me to really address it appropriately. If this is a temporary measure, then what we should be doing, I think, and this is what I tried to create as my resolution, and I take the blame here. It's not Mike's fault. He prepared this, apparently trying to encapsulate what I was trying to get across in our prior meeting, and this is not what I intended, but that's my fault, not Mike's. I'm not trying to criticize him. But I am trying to criticize this resolution that if it were simply the status quo resolution that I was trying to pass, it would be no change until we can address this appropriately in November. Because the problem here is that we had to have a fee study in order to appropriately address the particular raises of fees that I think we have justification for. But I don't feel comfortable going as far as what our fee study allows, and I didn't think it was appropriate when we've got our final budget to address to try to rush this through. Now, I would like for there to be major changes with regards to the recorder's fees, with regards to the distribution of them, with regards to many aspects of this, but frankly, I'm not prepared to make a recommendation tonight on what we should do. I am prepared to vote against any recommendation that is not fully thought out, fully explained, and that makes sense with all the data that we have. So, honestly, I think what we need to do is take no action and address this next month when we can address it appropriately. Maybe all of you are better prepared than I am. And if so, then you're fully justified in going ahead and voting on this, but I'm going to be voting against it.
Mr. Snyder.
Mr. Chairman, do you need an amendment to this resolution?
I needed an amendment 2 weeks ago, didn't get it, so it's up to the committee what they want to do.
I will make a motion to amend the resolution and adopt the option B cap fees.
There's been a motion made to adopt option B, the cap fees for Finance 23-41. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Mennel. Discussion on the amendment. Mr. Harris, sorry.
Yes, sir. I totally don't understand Bill's concern, because we have all the information here. We know what they're presented. We know what this is. I don't know how much more detail you can get. And the next question is, you'll present this same thing in November, won't you?
That is correct. The reason we're doing it now is there's a 2-week period at least where it has to be noticed to the public. So since there wasn't a final action by Finance Committee this month, this then allows the 2 months or 2 weeks before we have our November meeting, and since our next meeting wouldn't be until the end of January after that. So, and this is a resolution that could be changed in the future. It's just presenting a potential option that could be the base for now, and if there's a desire next year to start incrementing the fees a little differently, then that could certainly be looked at in early next year too.
Sandy, just so you're aware, I'm gonna call for a roll call vote on call for this, so just be prepared. Go ahead, Greg, Mr. Sim.
I struggle to see, I attempted to call a point of order, what are we doing here with this committee work? And maybe you had just addressed it by what you said, a time frame. I feel that we're doing committee work with no resolution for county board. I mean, I'm glad I'm here listening to it, I mean, that's good, but I think it's business out of order to be doing this on full board night when it's just committee work that's gonna be acted in November. Unless what Michael said, some deadlines, but I don't understand how a resolution, just a motion on a committee stands as anything until the board acts on it. So I don't understand what we're doing here tonight as a committee that's not gonna bring a resolution to the board, or we're doing business, that's what they should do in November.
We're sending out the ability to notice it to the public so we can do business in November before the full board. Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nick, do you feel that we have time to review this and change it if we want to by the November meeting?
Michael, I'll defer to you on that.
We wouldn't have another committee in time, so I think the county clerk would likely to prefer to have a definitive plan of action so that what he published notices would be what would likely pass by the board. And so the big time crunch is the budget. So we're approving final budget tonight for the next year. And as the budget stands right now, it's the status quo with the recorder's salaries being paid out of the document storage rather than general fund. So that's where we're trying to get consensus of if the board, finance committee had said they want the salaries to go back to the general fund. So the fees would then, the distribution would also need to support that. So we're discussing it now so that when we get to budget tonight, there would be a clearer understanding that salaries should move back to the general fund, since the fee distribution would then support it in the general fund.
I just have one follow-up for you. I know that this is confusing, and it is confusing a little bit to me, but I guess I don't want anybody on or off the committee to think that there wasn't any work that went into this and Mike just drew this up this afternoon. There was an incredible amount of work that had gone into this, and how complicated it is. I'm very thankful for Mike and John, who spent many hours putting this together. So I understand it may look a little bit odd and a little bit out of order, but rest assured it was not just quickly thrown together. Thank you.
Mr. Crawford.
Well, for the record, I'm not on the finance committee, so I appreciate you recognizing me, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'll just say that I wholeheartedly associate myself with the comments of Mr. Sin and the parliamentarian. They have different points, but I agree wholeheartedly with both of them. And then I'll save my comments. Mike, I got some questions. You know, I take this stuff very seriously, finances in Tazewell County, and I have forever. I think that the fiscal rules I always used was that first of all, to protect all Tazewell County funds to the maximum ability. But I always knew that the county general fund is more fragile. It's weaker. It's more under attack than the other funds, the special revenue funds. So I always wanted accounting, proper accounting. That's essential. I didn't care about the personalities of the department heads or the county officers. I cared about where that accounting should have been. But if in some cases, either one is appropriate, either the special revenue fund, appropriation or the county general fund appropriation. In places where the accounting was either way and the legality was either way, and those aren't always the same, those are different considerations. But if they're both either way, I always would go to protecting the expense in the general fund, more than in the special revenue fund. But sometimes it must be in the general fund because of either accounting or proper accounting or law. In this case, I'll ask you, Michael, I value your input. Is it legal in either special revenue fund or in the county general fund? Is it proper accounting in either one? And then if what I think is true, that it is legal either way or proper accounting either way, then my question to you is, why in the world would we be taking something out of a special revenue fund and burdening the county general fund? I simply don't understand that. And by the way, it's not just with the county clerk's budget. That would be my view of, there are many department heads who control both special revenue fund budgets and a county general fund department. And I would feel the same way about those as well. Thank you.
Yes, so I would say that for the general fund, there's a general fund fee by statute, and then there's specific purposes for the fee fund, with the automation fund and for document storage. The understanding, that talked with Bellwether, and my knowledge, the purpose of the fee fund is not to pay for all salaries for the recording office, and that's currently what's happening is all salaries. That's not how the county had previously operated for quite some time ago, until 2020 when it was changed. And so this is reverting back to what Bellwether has said is the standard. There should be general operating expenses in the general fund, and that's what the fee fund was developed with. So when we see those costs, they said, okay, for your labor, this in the general fund, this is how much it's going to cost. So either way, the labor is being supported, but it's what makes more sense. And so based on Bellwether's recommendation, this includes salaries in the general fund being supported by the general fund fee and the document storage automation fee just covering technology and the scanning contracts. And so they've recommended more that clear divide. Labor can be used in the automation fee fund, and it was used, like I said, minimally previously. It was just part of a part-time. To keep it clean, Bellwether, Finance Committee said to move labor to general fund, and the fees that we got from Bellwether are then meant to support that labor cost. So it's changing the distribution so that the general fund isn't just taking the cost, it's getting the revenue to support that cost.
May I follow up, Mr. Chair? This is a short one, Mike. Thank you for that. It was an excellent answer. Does that mean if I shortened up your answer, you pretty much had a problem with what they did in 2020 when they moved many of those all those salaries to the special revenue fund and took them out of the general fund? You wish they wouldn't have done that?
Bellwether's recommendation was that it should be in the general fund, and like I said, that's from my understanding of more of a general practice where it's not, you don't have the entire staff being paid out of the fee fund.
Mr. Harris.
I think a couple of comments. The move redistribution in 2020, more dollars were moved than expenses. So, and some of us oppose that. And then the philosophy I have is the county board's main responsibility is the fiscal responsibility of county. And we move it to the fee funds, we lose that control. And a good example is the county clerk giving raises and not matching ours. So I'd like to keep it in the general fund just for our control.
Mr. Clerk, keep it short.
The information that was provided to you does not match what Bellwether's report has. It does not. It has serious legal problems for the future, and that you are not allowed to drain the balance out of my fee fund to support your services. You would be leaving me two bills over $100,000 apiece and providing me only revenue for $100,000. You would basically be saying we're going to drain the Recorder of Deeds fee fund to zero, not supporting, providing it with enough revenue to support the expenses. You're required to, by statute, pay for the Recorder of Deeds vendor for land management and pay for the dock storage abilities for the office. Both of those contracts, you're leaving me the burden and taking all of the revenue so that I have to burn through all of the balance in the fee fund, bankrupting it. I won't do that. The office will close under that proposal, and the Department of Revenue will ask why we've closed the financial markets in Tazewell County, because we're not providing enough revenue to keep the office open. That's a serious problem within that budget that you are looking at and the proposals that are being made.
The comment that I would like to make in regards to that is, if we pass this, we will need to carefully watch the fund balances of the Recorder of Deeds office, because obviously we don't want that office, we can't have that office closed. So we will need to monitor those funds very closely. Mr. Harris.
I believe Mike has answered that question. The fee fund will not be drained. It'll go down significantly, but it won't be drained. And the last thing is, I don't like threats. I mean, the county's been working together for years until things changed in the last couple of years. Threats don't go well with me.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, on the screen here, I have the projections for the fund balance that we did, and maybe could hand out a paper copy of it as well. This includes the beginning fund balance in the fee fund right now is $383,000. So the total revenues coming in each year would be $137,000. And highlighted at the bottom, based on paying the two costs that I mentioned, the recording software and the scanning contract costs, and just mainly leaving at that in FY 2027, paying for PC replacements since that's previously happened. They have a plotter that may become old and need to be replaced. But when you're looking at over the next 6 years what the fund balance is, the lowest it would get would be $84,542. And this is with using 18,000 recordings per year. That is lower than what it typically has been recently. So from using a conservative recording estimate, it would at a minimum keep 84,000. And also just looking at the purpose of the fee fund. So the previous county clerk had been saving up this balance for this purpose, to be able to scan all those records. And so the intent for a fund like this, just kind of like a bridge, you build up the fund, and when you're ready to do the project, you then spend down the fund. We do that all the time with our county bridge fund. And so that was the intent. So it does make sense for the fee fund to go down in balance as the scanning project is paid. And then you'll see starting in FY 2028, once the project is paid off, that it would start accumulating more funds again. But I do feel comfortable with the level that it would be at.
Any other discussion? I still hold what I said earlier, that we'll have to maintain close watch over these funds over the next several years. Ms. Prano.
My question is this: we have option B and we have option A before us.
We're voting on option B right now.
Voting on B. Mike, is that based on the fees for option B?
It is both A and B. So I left, since there is a high enough fund balance in the fee fund, the $383,000 that it would be starting the fiscal year with, it is using the $6.12, which is what was approved in 2018, and what I also used in the option B capped fees, since there is enough revenues to support it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment? We are voting on the amendment only. Sandy, would you call a roll call?
Chairman Graff,
Yes.
Vice Chair Schneider,
Yes.
Atkins,
No.
Deppert,
Yes.
Goddard,
No.
Harris,
No.
Kribel,
Yes.
Longfellow,
No.
Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus,
Yes.
Trail,
Yes.
Rich Simpson,
Yes.
8 to 4.
8 to 4?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the motion as amended is now option B. Is there discussion, further discussion on that motion? Mr. Atkins?
Getting back to my earlier point, can I get an explanation of why this is the right thing to do?
If I had one, I'd give it to you. In all honesty. Mr. Harris?
What is the wrong thing to do? It's not this.
Well, I agree with Mr. Atkins's synopsis. I think we should take it to the full amount. But I think we should plan to do it in the future. The only thing that's holding our feet to the fire right now is the fact that we want to pass a budget tonight and meet the notice requirement that applies to us by statute. That's the only reason we're doing this tonight. And I asked this at the meeting 2 weeks ago and I couldn't get an answer then. I don't know why we're doing this now and don't wait until March, April, May of next year. That would be my inclination. But we're fighting against the budget tonight. Tammy? I'm sorry. Mike?
I think one reason is the distribution. We'll get the distribution back to where it was in 2018 or 2020 of the fee fund.
The board had intended in 2018.
Right.
But wasn't implemented that way.
Any other discussion? Sandy, if you do a roll call, remember you have to alternate the order.
Vice Chair Schneider,
Yes.
Atkins,
No.
Deppert,
Yes.
Goddard,
No.
Harris,
No.
Kribel,
Yes.
Longfellow,
No.
Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus,
No.
Trail,
Yes.
Rich Simpson,
Yes.
Chairman Graff,
No.
6 to 6.
What? Well, that fails. Just for the record.
So the motion as amended fails. Mr. Chairman, I believe we are in recess.
I am confused.
May I make a comment? My no vote is only against fees, not against presentment. I know it don't make a difference, but
I guess I'm not sure why people voted yes for the amendment and then voted no for this. The purpose that I would have had in this is to keep certain elected officials from making 23% raises without the board's permission. But we are in recess. We have in-place human resources. Chairman Rich Simpson.
Sandy, can you call the roll, please?
Chairman Rich Simpson,
Here.
Vice Chair Harris,
Here.
Atkins,
Here.
Deppert,
Here.
Goddard,
Here.
Graff,
Here.
Kribel,
Here.
Longfellow,
Here.
Mennel,
Here.
Mingus, Trail,
Here.
Schneider,
Here.
you have the floor.
Can I get a motion to get HR 2317 recommend to approve FY 24 insurance premiums on the floor, please? Longfellow and Atkins. Mike, do you want to help explain this?
Yes, I'd ask Angela Hutton, HR Director, to explain, please. And as she's coming up, I would request, there is a revised version in the packet when we were reviewing it. On the first page for non-union, it had listed that there was a 2% increase, but it's actually 0, so you should have a revised version that would have in yellow that it's zeros. Then on the back page, for the page that's control room operators, the dental dependent only dental coverage, the 3 numbers had matched deputies, and there were slightly different amounts for current. So this is just continuing to match the current fees that we have now for those. So I would request that there be an amendment to incorporate these revisions.
Mike has a motion. Mike has made a motion for those revisions. Do I have a second? Nancy? Go ahead, Angela.
So we are proposing a 2% increase in our medical, and that includes the retiree portion. We're also adding 4 tiers as opposed to our 3 tiers that we have now. So we're actually adding a spouse and employee health tier in addition to our family, child, and employee, and then employee only.
Anybody have questions on the information that's been provided?
We're voting on 2317.
Oh, yeah, right, we gotta vote on the amendment, right? The highlighted areas first. All those in favor for, the corrections that have been presented in the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Unless there's any other questions, we can probably take a vote. So there
As
will be,
amended, okay.
with these 2% changes, when we get to the budget part of tonight's meeting, then you'll see a decent amount of adjustments on the budget sheets just to be able to then account for the 2% increases.
Are there more questions? So all those in favor of HR 2317 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Can I get HR 2319 to approve change to the qualified high deductible PPO plan on the floor? Crable and Longfellow. And I'll defer to Angela.
So the only change that you'll see is that we had to increase the family deductible from $4,000 to $6,400 for anything network and out of network to meet the 2024 IRS limits that were set, and that is the only change.
Are there questions? We've been talking about insurance for quite a while now, and we've just had to tweak some things. This is one last tweak. No questions? All those in favor of HR 2319, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are in recess.
Thank you. Now we have an in-place risk management meeting. Sandy, if you could call the roll, please.
Chairman Zimmerman?
Here.
Vice Chair Harris?
Here.
Atkins?
Here.
Graff?
Here.
Hall?
Here.
Josine?
Here.
Longfellow?
Here.
Reynolds?
Here.
Mingus?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Christensen?
Here.
Snyder?
Here.
Auditor Grimm? State's Attorney? Treasurer Clark? You have a form.
Can I get a motion to get RM 2307 on the floor? Motion by Rich Stimson, second by Crail. We looked at these at executive committee. And Mike, if you want to just briefly discuss, I think it's fairly obvious that we need to go with Consociate here, but Angela or
You'll notice that the quote from Consociate is substantially cheaper than the IPMG quote. We also met with Consociate, and with their quote, it also includes a wrap network at no additional charge for our employees that are out of state. So that include college students and retirees. Consociate also has a direct provider contract with BJC Healthcare, which is located in St. Louis. So this would provide our employees the use of Barnes-Jewish Hospital, St. Louis Children's Hospital, and Washington University Hospital, and it does not pose any conflict with our current agreement with Carle Health. So you would have 77 specialties and subspecialties available for our employees to use as well, with the same rate that we have with Carle, or even more than that.
Any questions? All those in favor? Oh, Nancy?
I think I've asked this before, but I want to be sure it's covered. We have a separate agreement with Hopedale Hospital, is that correct?
Yes, we do.
I know their employees are concerned about that.
And we, in our meetings with Consociate and the Wyman Group, we also learned that Carl has agreed to, also include, Carl Champagne, Carl Roman, and then Carl Eureka into our agreement as well.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed. We're out of risk management. Okay, that brings us down to our consent agenda. Item 5 will automatically be pulled. 9, 11, and 13 is being pulled. There's some dispute on that, Bill.
Chairman Zimmerman?
Yes.
Point of order.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with the Assistant State's Attorney, my colleague. He pointed out something that I feel rather stupid forgetting. The chairman of the board is actually an ex officio member of the committees, and although I suspect this is gonna reverse my vote, you actually would be able to vote on the tie vote in Finance Committee. So I believe that it would be appropriate, given the misunderstanding regarding the rules, to reconvene that committee and allow you to vote, which did not happen as I believe it should have been in consultation with Mr. Holly.
Okay. How do we do that? Just call finance back in?
Yeah, I think if the chairman of the committee is willing to simply reconvene, I think that can be done. It really maybe should be a motion to reconsider in order to allow that to happen, but I think honestly, since we failed to acknowledge what the rules were, it would be appropriate to simply have that vote done again, so that you can cast your vote.
I'd be willing to do that, but whenever we're gonna finish the meeting, we'll do it at the end.
Do it at the end? Okay, we'll come back to finance after full board.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Although I agree with Mike and Bill, there's another way to handle it, and that's just do what I think Sin suggested in the first place, and that is, do this in November. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't hear, I was talking with Mr. Holly, I apologize, I didn't hear which items were being pulled.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through those again. So 5, 9, 11, 12, 13 is being pulled. Any other ones?
Item 1.
Item 1. Mike? Item 2.
Item 3.
Item 3.
I'm sorry, item 3.
Not 2.
Not 2.
Okay.
And item 2.
Item 2. So I have 1, 2, 3, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 is being pulled. Any other ones?
And you make a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda if there are no other additions.
There's just one notation for item 10, the employee handbook of the in committee. We had changed literally 2 words, the same word "are" in the employee handbook. So the version that was in the packet had the old version. There is the committee past version in your packet, and speaking with Mr. Atkins, he thought that just notating that the correct version is now in your packet was sufficient, didn't need to be completely pulled.
All right. So a motion from Crawford to accept the remainder, second by Nelms on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Can I get a motion for appointments 18 and 19? Motion by Longfellow, second by Sin. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Back to our agenda. Can I get a motion for LU 2318, Pearl Street Solar? Motion by Crawford, second by Graff. I'm not sure who pulled this. Bill?
I pulled this, and at the risk of being pedantic, the reason I pulled it is that I believe that we are actually voting on the petition, not the resolution before us. And so I pulled it so that we can vote no, because I believe what we do is we vote no on the petition rather than the way it's presented in our packet, as if we would be voting yes on a resolution to deny the petition. And so, in order to comply with the request of ZBA and land use, I believe that we should take this as a vote that we vote no on in order to honor what they're asking us to do. Had this gone through the consent agenda and we voted yes, I believe we would have actually been granting this rather than following the recommendation of land use and ZBA.
Russ?
I don't want to agree with Atkins all the time here. That would sully my reputation. But I do agree with him. I just wanted to say to the board members who are not on land use and don't attend ZBA, this is boring for the ones who are, that this failed unanimously at the Zoning Board of Appeals. This failed unanimously at our Land Use Committee. It's fair to say that, you know, even the petitioners probably thought they were going to get a no vote. This is our Tazewell County land, and if we vote yes on this, if we give them a wink and a nod, that means we make everybody follow our instructions except when Tazewell County is the petitioner. That's a terrible thing to do. It sends the wrong message to everybody. What happened is, you remember the state came in and decided they wanted to be the county and change all the rules, and they did that. Those rules became much looser. The petitioner actually followed the rules, but the rules that they were under, which were much more strict, and they did not follow those. So that's why we really must vote no. And I'll agree with Bill that we should vote no. We just need to make it clear to Jackie that that's
So
what
does
we're
everybody
doing.
have that understanding? Nick?
The resolution recommends that the variance be denied by the county board. Is the wording?
That's correct. It should be denied. So that's yes for denial, Bill.
No, it is not, because we vote on the petition. We do not vote on the resolution. The petitioner is coming before us asking for something. We either grant or deny their petition. The Land Use Committee has no legal value at all. Okay, Land Use Committee is something that we do to please ourselves, to make ourselves.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, ZBA does, if you look at the way in which our land use regulations are allowed to exist under state law, ZBA does make a recommendation, but it's a recommendation as to what we will do on whatever petitions come before them. So our resolution from Land Use Committee, if we simply vote in favor of that resolution, we haven't necessarily addressed the petition, because it is a petition coming before us from the particular landowners or the agents or whatever. So I understand, as I said at the beginning, this is rather pedantic, but I think it's the right way to do it. And as I think you've all seen, even when it might result in what I want not happening, like with the vote we're probably going to take where Chairman Zimmerman is going to overturn what I try to accomplish, I still want us to follow the rules correctly.
State's Attorney Holly, agreement to the no vote turns down this project.
Yes, I agree with Mr. Atkins.
Okay. So we understand. Yeah, Russ?
One last thing. I don't want anybody to think, if you've been out to Tremont and you see all this work that's been done, that it's all going to be eliminated or go to hell. The petitioners made it very clear that if we vote this down, they're going to cure all the defects that they had and still make it workable within our rules. So then we'll have an opportunity to approve that. Thank you.
All right.
Dave,
Yeah.
I need clarification. Is this petition to have the right to build a solar system, or what's this petition?
The petition, go ahead, Bill.
I believe this was a variance on a setback was actually the request in this petition.
That's right.
And so we will be denying the variance on the setback.
If we vote no.
If we vote no, we will be denying the variance on the setback, exactly.
Okay, we all understand. I don't want to be pedantic, that's I've already said that.
We don't even know what that means.
All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails. Can I get a motion for LU 2319, get it on the floor? Motion by Crawford, second by Longfellow. Russ, did you pull this?
Yes, sir.
The only reason I pulled it is this passed unanimously through the ZBA and land use, and it's, this petitioner is simply interested in using the land in a way that the land has been used for 25 years. The petitioner is Michael Sutherland, who's a councilman on the East Peoria City Council. Thank you.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Motion for LU 2320, Morton Solar. Motion by Atkins, second by Crawford. Not sure who pulled this, Russ?
I did. This is the last one I'm going to talk about. So, you know, you guys on the board know that I've been a tough thorn in the side of a lot of our wind farm and solar projects. Not because I'm against them, I'm all for green energy, but I think they haven't been done. They've been in the wrong place, quite frankly. But this one, Morton Solar, is unbelievable. I've watched them, I've read all their stuff. They actually I told them they could make money if they go out and consult with other solar companies on how to work with a county board, how to work with all the government and cities in order to get these things approved. It's a textbook on how to do it right. So I'm absolutely supportive of this. Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? You raise your hands. So noted. Motion passes. All right, can I get a motion for P2313 get on the floor? Motion by Trail, second by Joseph. This is the parking lot that just came out of committee. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. HR 2317 just came out on insurance premiums. Can I get a motion? Motion by Atkins, second by Rich Stimpson. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Item 10 we got clarification on. Can I get a motion for HR 2319? Motion by Nelms, second by Rich Stimpson. This just came out of HR tonight too. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. RM 2307, the third party administrator, just came out of committee. Can I get a motion? Motion by Graff, second by Kriebel. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, any unfinished business?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reconvene the finance committee meeting.
All right.
Have the clerk note that the same board members are still here. We still have a quorum. So are we doing a motion to reconsider, or are we just including the vote?
Well, since there was really no prevailing side, I'm not sure about a motion to reconsider. It seems that actually in light of the point of order being raised regarding the errant voting, we would recast the votes in order to comply with our rules, because that last vote by not calling Chairman Zimmerman in the case of a tie did not comply with our rules.
Okay, so we're re-voting on 2341 as amended. Any further discussion? I hate to ask. Any further discussion? Sandy, would you call the roll, please?
Atkins,
No.
Shepherd,
Yes.
Goddard,
No.
Harris,
No.
Kribel,
Yes.
Longfellow,
No.
Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus, Frail,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Chairman Graff,
No.
Vice Chair Snyder,
Yes.
Chairman Zimmerman,
Yes.
7-6.
Motion has passed. Is there any other business for finance? Finance Part 1 is in recess.
Okay. The bills have been distributed. The calendar, just make note of the compressed schedule. Can I get a motion to approve the calendar for November? Motion by Crawford, second by Deppert. Any changes, questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We are recessed until November 15th. We'll take about a 5-minute, or however long it takes to get set up, and we'll begin final budget. Okay.